we are live.
Good evening, everyone. This meeting of the Historic Districts Review Board is now called to order. We are March 9th, 2021. This is our 18th virtual meeting. Carl, good evening. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, you may, Madam Chair. Cecilia Rios.
Here.
Frank Katz.
Here.
Jennifer Beachide.
Here.
John Bienvenu.
Here.
Anthony Guida.
He's
Member Guida is excused.
Okay. Flynn Larson
Here.
and Betty Roybal.
Also excused.
Thank you. Madam Chair, we do have a quorum.
Thank you. Are there any changes to this evening's agenda?
Yes, Madam Chair, we have a couple of changes. We would like to move old business case number 2, case number 2021-003048 HDRB to case number 3 under old business, so that the new business case for that can go back to back with the old.
Okay.
And we would like to postpone to a date certain case number 2021-003200 HDRB at 300 Garcia Street. Postpone it to a date certain of March 23rd, as the applicant will be providing us some more information.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any other changes? If not, is there a motion to approve the agenda as just amended?
So moved.
Remember to
Larson,
identify
second.
yourself. Thank you. That was Member Katz, and who seconded?
Larson seconds.
And Larson seconded. A roll call vote, please.
Frank Katz.
Yes.
Jennifer Beachide.
Yes.
John Bienvenu.
Yes.
Flynn Larson.
Yes.
It is approved, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Carl. We did not have any minutes in this packet. And correct?
There
Yeah,
were.
I think that's correct. Findings of fact and conclusions of law. Any changes to those?
Move to approve the findings and conclusions as submitted.
Larson seconds.
Roll call vote, please.
Jennifer Beachide.
Yes.
John Bienvenu.
Yes.
Flynn Larson.
Yes.
Frank Katz.
Yes.
Madam Chair, it passes.
Thank you very much. Let me see if we have any matters from the public, and I do want to say that we'll limit public speakers to 2 minutes, whether they're speaking now or during cases, if they have anything. We have Stephanie Benenato. Good evening, Stephanie.
I'm unmuted now. I thought I was unmuted, so good evening. I just wanted to point out that you were discussing non-conforming structures last time, and Ms. Paez was talking about the 2/3, 1/3 destruction that would make something lose its non-conformity. That really only applies in the case of what they call act of God, or now called act of nature. So if there was a fire or flood and the property, the structure was damaged, and it was damaged by 2/3 or more, then it would lose its nonconformity and they would have to rebuild in conformance with the contemporary code. But it doesn't apply to the cases or to the situation that is being described on Berger Street. Thank you.
Thank you. It appears that no one else from the public has anything further to say. So we will go to any staff discussions. Sally or Nicole?
I do have a couple of things.
Yes.
Is that okay? One, I did reach out to the project manager for the PERA building, and I'm waiting for them to return my phone call. There was somebody else that needed to talk to me in order to come present to the board regarding the solar structures. So we're working on that. And then coming up, and we'll talk about it more at the next hearing, are the 2021 Heritage Preservation Awards. I will be talking to Old Santa Fe Association and Historic Santa Fe regarding how we're going to do the ceremony this year.
Okay, anything else, Nicole?
Nothing from me, no.
Okay, and Sally, did you have something?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just going to note that I do believe we had February 23rd minutes in the packet, but it's possible that due to a Prime Gov thing, they weren't as easy to access early on. So I think it's perfectly fine to postpone approval if you all have not had a chance to review them. But I just did want to note for the record that that was on the agenda minutes from February 23rd. And they are they're available for viewing right now. But anyway, I just wanted to raise that.
Okay, board members, did you have a chance to look at these?
Yes, Madam Chair, I was going to mention the same thing, that I actually did have those minutes in my packet.
Oh, okay. Did other board members? I didn't look at them.
I did not either.
Anybody else? Jennifer, did you have
Yeah.
a chance to look at them?
I did, yeah, but
I would move.
sounds like it's fine to postpone.
Okay, yeah, can we do that if you don't mind? Jennifer, was that your motion?
Yes,
And is there a second?
Second, it's John.
Roll call vote, please.
John Bienvenu,
Yes.
Lynn Larson,
Yes.
Frank Katz,
Yes.
Jennifer Beachheim.
yes.
The motion passes, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Carl. So we'll go on to old business, and the first case under old business is Daniel's case, and it's 2020 2975. This is at 918 Don Gaspar. Daniel, may we have your report, please?
Yes, I'm just getting set up. Sorry.
Yeah, okay.
So 918 Don Gaspar. 918 Don Gaspar Avenue is a single-family residential bungalow with a historic status of contributing, and a freestanding garage with a historic status of non-contributing to the Don Gaspar Historic District. There's an overview with the house on the corner of Coronado and Don Gaspar with a garage in the rear. The house was constructed by 1928 and the garage by 1948 in a style that matches the house, which has white painted gables with dark brown wood shakes below. Here's the photo of the garage that we saw the last time. And I'm just going to go ahead to this photo. Here is the main house with the brown shingles and this white gable line, which is what we consider to be the character defining features of the house, which is also mirrored here in the garage. An HCPI from 1993 shows the garage with a shingled gable, but the bottom portion of the view is blocked by wooden doors that separate it from the street. Since the photo was taken, unpermitted work was performed on the garage. Half of the shingled gable was covered over with a scratch coat of plaster and an aluminum sliding window. This is the view from the outside, and we have a couple of views from the inside. So this is the interior. This is the door that faces out. That's that door. And you can see the river rock wall, and then there's a concrete wall here. This is the window area of the interior. Again, this concrete block and wooden wall here. The board reviewed the status of the structure in case 2020-2975 HDRB on January 28th, 2021. It downgraded the status of the structure to non-contributing and required the property owner to submit an application to restore the structure such that it shall be restored to its former contributing status per section 14-5.2 C2F. Little evidence exists as to the history of this structure. It appears to have been built a few years after the house, around 1915, with the house built in 1911. With the lowering of the floor occurring still at a later date. It may originally have not had a front wall, but only shingles over the gable. But like I said, we don't really have any documentation beyond what these photos show. So here again, the drawing of the unpermitted situation today with this scratch coat and the shingles, the non-historic door and window. And again, the character defining features that still remain here, this little triangle of shingles and the gable. The applicant now returns to the board with the following proposal: to reconstruct the west wall, which is the front facade of the garage. The front door and window will be white to match the existing gate. The stone walls are river rock. The boards and trim will be white to match the existing. Shingles will be brown to match the existing, and the roof material will remain green asphalt shingle. Staff recommends approval of the proposed project and finds that the application complies with section 14-5.2 D and H, the design standards, and recommends that the proposal complies with section 14-5.2 C to F for reinstatement of contributing status. I stand for questions.
Thank you, Daniel. I see that Member Katz has a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Daniel, thank you for getting the photos from the inside. That helps. I'm puzzled by the lowering of the floor. If you could go to the one picture you had that shows the exterior of where we are now, or what they're proposing. I assume that the door on the right, both as it exists and as it's proposed, is that the floor level inside?
That is, yes, this photo would suggest that it's the floor level. Yeah, it doesn't, the photo doesn't show the floor, but I believe that that is the floor level in the inside.
And this was a garage, right?
Well, you know, the documentation that we have, we believe it was it seems to have been an accessory structure, whether it was a garage for a car. I don't know that.
It's a little disappointing that we can't get that information. I mean, it says their garage. There's some reason why someone was calling it a garage, but if it were a garage, the floor had to be as low as it is now, or it wouldn't have fit, a car wouldn't have fit in. And so what appears to have happened is that there was dirt put in front of the building. But
I think it could have been a mixture, you know, that that it was slightly lower than the natural grade, and then was lowered, and this left portion was raised, so to speak. Possibly that earlier there was something in between where it was level all the way across. That's just my guess. We don't have documentation.
Is there any reason to think that the floor was lowered?
My understanding is that the construction leads one to believe it has. I think it has to do with the depth of this wall, that it doesn't go down to the. Perhaps it doesn't go down to the floor of this current garage floor.
But you don't have any pictures of that portion of the interior, do you?
These are the photos that I have.
Yeah. Okay, and then let me ask a question about the renderings of the current and the proposed. And the proposed, that's, let me confirm something first. This view that we're seeing here you act is publicly visible. You just see right down the driveway, right to that structure, right?
Yes. I mean, you
Um,
don't see, you wouldn't see this lower portion because it's below ground level.
Right. The diagram seems to show, can we go to what the floor plan is type thing?
I'm afraid I didn't.
I'm not sure which.
That may be in your packet.
I can
It
put
is
it
in
up
our
on the,
packet.
I can put it on the screen if you'd like.
Would you please?
I mean, this is the view of that we will get from the street, and there, I think, is indicated that there's a wall there, and we have no idea. Oh, yes, there. And on the right, you have steps going down against a wall, and it's that wall in the front, in the bottom of that picture, that we don't see that at all. It's not. We're not given a view of that. What is it going to block?
It's a retaining wall. It's below ground level.
It's all below ground level?
Yes, it starts at ground level and descends.
So there's no railing going down those steps?
That's a good question. I would just presume that there is a railing.
Yeah, so I guess I'm pretty distressed that we're not getting better renderings of this plan, of what it really is going to look like.
I think that the proposed north elevation in the bottom left corner there, you can see there's a little wall there sticking up in the middle.
Where's this? Oh, well, that's ground level.
Yeah, so that would be probably the railing, is extending up around 3 feet.
I mean, that's what it looks like now, and they're going to redo it so that the steps go.
Well, right now there's no
down to
steps.
the east and then down to the north.
Right now it's just a retaining wall with no steps going down. So I think the retaining wall will have essentially the same shape, but will have steps going down.
Okay, one other question. Nowhere do I find any information of what the siding below the gable is going to be. Do we have any information on that?
Shingle, it's going to be that same brown shingle. Oh,
It sure doesn't look like it's the same brown shingle. It's that.
Oh, down there.
Yeah.
You're right. We should ask the applicant.
Thank you.
Member Larson.
Thank you. Yeah, I just have one question, and I apologize if we discussed this at the last hearing, but do we know anything about the age of the front door? Is it just assumed that it's kind of from that 1990s period, or?
Yes, it's all non-historic material there in the front, except for that little bit of shingle.
Okay, and we still don't have any information about an opening that was there. It's just assumed that it was a garage at this point.
Yes, we call it a garage. I don't know, because of the height of the structure above ground level. Perhaps it was just a shade structure originally, or perhaps there was. Okay. We just don't have much documentation except for those photos showing the interior.
Okay, thank you.
Member Benvenue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Maybe Member Katz just touched on this, I'm not sure, but my question was about what the material is on the siding between the window and the door, on both sides of the window, actually. The diagonal is indicated on the drawing, but do you know, is that what you're referring to, that you did not know what that?
That's what I would, that's not, yes, exactly. That's what we were referring to, and I can try and see if I can read something on that plan, or if you can zoom in. I don't know if it doesn't appear to say anything on the diagram.
Okay, and then it does indicate on that drawing that there's an iron railing, I believe. I thought I saw that someplace, but do you know whether that's below the grade or above the grade?
The railing accompanying the stairs?
I guess that, yeah, it seems to.
It is right here.
It's on the proposed floor plan.
I would presume that it's above the grade because the stairs begin at grade.
Okay, so that might be something we would need to see then. And then just as a general question, I'm just wondering about what your opinion is. This was something we discussed at the last time this came before us, of course, as to whether the board had the authority to order that this be returned to contributing status. I was of the opinion that we could not, but regardless, my question now is, I just don't know how this could be considered contributing, this new plan, since the plan itself is indicating that it's a change from what was there before, even the best guess as to what was there before, which is unknown. So I don't know how we could reach a determination that that the historic integrity of this facade is retained. Do you have an opinion on that?
My opinion is one, we're all operating from the same level of information, which is not much. However, the character defining features are extant. There are traces of them, which are those same character defining features that I identified in the house. And I think that with any kind of reconstruction, you have to use the historic traces that are available, and those are that little shingle and the white roof line, which we also see in the main structure.
Right.
It's everyone's guess as to what it exactly looked like, but those character defining features, I think, are the features that we are talking about that could represent the status. Whether it has 3 doors or 2 windows, that's really, I think, at this point, just a design question. But it's about, in terms of the status, we're talking about those 2 features.
Okay, I guess I just don't agree that we could find that historic integrity of the structure is retained just because the shingles are restored, when the applicant himself or the applicant's agent is indicating that he doesn't think there even was anything below the gables originally. So it just seems to me that even under the application's own information, there's no historic integrity to this. That doesn't mean to me it can't be approved as being within the guidelines. I just don't think that we could find it to be contributing.
For what it's worth, if anyone would like, I could sort of reiterate what some of the findings were from the January case, if that's helpful.
Please do so.
Sure. And I've pasted these into an email to myself, but I don't have the exact numbers, but I could find that PDF as well. But the board, of course, found that it's over 50 years old. The board did find that the structure retains integrity. And what it says specifically is that although the structure has had significant alterations, it retains integrity because a significant amount of its historic material features and craftsmanship remain in the form of the shingled gable. So that's what made it into the written order. And then it further says that the unpermitted alterations, including the scratch coat of plaster and the new door and window, prevent the structure in its current condition from adding to the historic associations or historic architectural design qualities that are significant for the district. And it says that due to the unpermitted alterations, the structure no longer meets the definition of contributing structure. Anything else useful here? Let's see. 14-5.2C1C states that distinctive features and examples of craftsmanship that characterize the structure must be preserved. And finally, the board found that the structure could be restored to its former contributing status through the use of photographic documentary evidence and the retention of the structure's historic material features and craftsmanship, including the shingled gable. So as a starting point, those were the board's findings in the previous hearing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I still find that everything below the gables is an entirely speculative reconstruction. So I don't personally see how we could find that to be contributing. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Beachside.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think I voiced this at the last hearing as well, but although this facade is significantly altered and we don't know, what was presented there before, there still is the entire footprint, as I understand it, the other 3 walls, which are, I believe, historic stone walls, and the pitched roof, all seem to be intact. And I think that might be enough to designate this as contributing. I think we might seek some opinions on the primary facade, since this one is the only one that's visible that's significantly altered. I think there might be enough here to not just say it's non-contributing, with a sensitive restoration of the front to the best of, I guess, any of our knowledge. I did have one question, and maybe it's better for the applicant, but I think I see on the floor plan a reference to a stucco wall below the window. And I can see it's stuccoed currently, but is there stucco on any other part of this building or the main house? Because it appears to me that under the windows at least from the photographs of the main house, it's a brick wainscoting with maybe a stucco header, but I don't see any other stucco references on the property.
I'm just
And
having a
perhaps
look
I've
at
read
it.
that wrong. I'm also
Really?
unclear, is there a wall in front of the garage being proposed? A new wall, a yard wall?
There's an element that does extend above the grade that you can see in that lower left diagram.
Is that a
Yeah.
new wall?
I'm not sure if that's a wall or a railing. It looks like it,
Oh,
the way it's drawn, it appears to be a wall.
And it's sort
I'm
of,
sure the-
there's
there-
something in the existing drawing as well that I'm not sure what that is.
That's the retaining wall.
Oh, sorry. Okay. All right, we can talk to the applicant about this. Thank you.
Thank you. So Daniel, the board determined that the garage was not contributing. The board also asked that the garage be restored to its former self. So the board could potentially revisit the status of the garage. Is that correct, or is that not correct?
Yes, the requirement of the board was that the applicant return with a proposal that would allow the board to reinstate the contributing status. So I think the assumption is the board will reinstate or will examine the status, and theoretically the requirement is that it become be redesignated as contributing.
And would that have to be done at another meeting, not at this evening's meeting, because it wasn't advertised, correct?
Sally?
Madam Chair, members of the board, in my view, the agenda caption that was advertised adequately captures what is a very unusual situation in this case. The caption said, request to remodel a non-contributing garage and restore its contributing status per 14.5.2 C2F, which is the provision that says the board may require restoration of a contributing structure. So our attempt was, in fact, to provide adequate notice, although this is a very unusual provision that the board doesn't typically apply. It's not one of our more basic case types. I do think that it was advertised as a possible redesignation of contributing status tonight.
Thank you, Sally, for that clarification. It appears that we have no more questions from board members. I would like to have the applicant sworn in, and I believe it's Richard Martinez.
Yes.
Is Richard there? Yes,
I'm
there's
here.
Richard. Hi, Richard.
Hello,
Would
Richard.
you swear in, Richard, please?
Please state your name and address for the record.
Richard Martinez, 1524 Paseo de Peralta.
Thank you. Under penalty of perjury, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, Richard.
Richard, good evening. You have the floor. What do you have to tell us about this project?
So whoever's doing the control of the screen, Nicole, maybe you can do the photograph of the outside of the building that you just had. Okay, so I want to answer some of the questions that were posed by members of the board. First of all, the floor is at the bottom of the door, and it seems to be lowered because the concrete wall that's against the stone wall on the side continues inside the building all around 3 sides. So it does seem that the floor was lowered at some point. Perhaps that it naturally sloped down a little bit, but not to the extent of where the floor is now. My proposal, and if you turn back to the drawing that was just on the screen, on the elevations, please. Okay, if you look on the existing elevation between the door and the window, there's a little stub of a concrete wall. And that's the wall between the natural grade and the lowered area of the floor. My proposal is that little stub of a wall would be raised up to 3 feet because it is required by the building permit that any habitable area that has a drop of more than 18 inches requires a barrier of 3 feet. And so I'm proposing that barriers, that the walls be extended up 3 feet from the existing grade. And that means that the lowered area of the garage would be enclosed by those walls. And that includes, in my proposal, the side wall and the front wall of the lowered area. I do have, that's right, that one that you're pointing to, and that's the other one that you're pointing to. I do have a stairway that goes down from the grade, natural grade, to this lowered area, and that is a stairway, and it would have an iron railing on the inside that's labeled as number. It's trying to read.
Number 9.
Number 9.
Number 9, yeah.
Yes, and that is at its high end. It starts at 3 feet above the natural grade, and then it goes down to 3 feet below the lowered floor. And so that would not be visible from the street because there would be a 3-foot wall right in front of it. And I was planning that those walls would be stuccoed because they're block that exists now. And I thought that was the nicest way that we can make sure that those are covered nicely. The side wall of the wall, not the stone walls, but the wall on the side of the garage, opposite on the other one, on the other side. No, on the other side of the whole driveway, next to the neighbor.
This one.
Yeah, that wall. That is stuccoed. And so I'm proposing that we do a stuccoed wall as well on the around the lowered area of the facade. On my facade, if you can, Nicole, turn to the facade. that I'm proposing, there's basically a couple of elements. One is that we intend to hopefully restore the shingles on the gable if they exist, but in any case, restore as many as we can and replace any that we need to, but that would be an element that we would definitely keep. Below that, the wall that contains the window and the door with the angled stripes is a white painted wood facade that would look like, as much as possible, like the gates that existed in the past. So that's why it's white. The house has white trim on it. The enclosure of the portals on the main house are all white, and we propose that we do that the same thing on this little facade of the garage. We are keeping the stone walls around all the west, the north, and the east side. And according to the report by the staff, by Daniel, the east facade, the north facade are publicly visible as well. So there's 3 elevations that are publicly visible, and we're keeping 2 of them, and we're doing our best to restore the elements on the north facade as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Member Katz has a question for you.
Yeah, I remain confused. So the drawing that we're seeing of what your proposal is would, in fact, we wouldn't be seeing any of that. There would be a wall that is high as that little stub to the left of the door that would block that entire doorway area, right?
That's correct. It would go from that stub to the existing wall. Yes.
The existing east
wall
wall of the structure.
Yes, that's right.
I'm puzzled. You said something about there was a stucco wall someplace. Where is this stucco wall?
The stucco wall is the wall that on my facade, on my elevation, that's the wall on the west side that's like 6 feet high between us and the neighbor. That wall, there, right there, exactly.
So this is not a wall of the structure. This is a yard wall.
This is a yard wall. Yes.
Oh yeah. So the structure has 3 walls that are old stone walls that were the original structure, right?
That's correct. But they only on the west side, that stone wall only appears on the actual garage, and then it becomes stucco. You can see a little bit of that on my facade, way on the on the left, on the right side of the drawing. Sorry.
Yeah, well, that's not changing, right? It shows the same.
Not changing. That's right.
Yeah. I guess I am disturbed that what I think is probably an addition of filled of dirt and such in front of the structure that hides the structure. And I'm even more disturbed that you're going to hide it even more with a wall that will almost entirely block the doorway. And that does not seem to me to be the right way to deal with it if you're trying to restore what was a contributing structure. I'm also concerned that I don't believe the house has any white siding. It has white trim, but the siding is either wood or brick or something else. And putting white siding there seems to be opposition to what the house looks like. And I would be curious as to why you're proposing that.
Simply because the gates were white, fencing is white, even on the main house. And so that's why I was proposing this white painted facade to be like the gates that existed and the fencing that's on the house itself.
Well, the gates that blocked the garage no longer are there, are they?
No, they're no longer there.
So what are you matching? I mean, it seems to me that yard walls and gates and such are not structures like the house and the garage, and that this should be more closely matching the house rather than gates that are no longer there. I would be interested in a different treatment of the part below the gable that would more mirror the house.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Nicole?
I don't have a great photo of the front of the house, but I have the Google Maps street view. Would you like to see that to see the house?
Sure.
I can try to drive down the road too if you want.
Yeah, if Nicole, the wall of the driveway that we're talking about is around the corner, and if you go on that facade, that might also help.
Yes, I was just trying to show kind of what the main house looks like, and for, you know, to get a general view. And we can see here we have the brick here below, divided light windows. I can't tell the siding. We do have a stucco yard wall with some of that river rock here.
It's a beautiful house. Originally, that was an open porch, and it has been enclosed. So there's white windows, but originally it was just a open porch, as was this. This was an open porch originally. Yeah, it's beautiful.
So that, Richard, aside from the frames on the windows, there's also white. Is that painted white, the wall right there that we are seeing on that photograph?
Yes, it's not really a wall. It's like pilasters and
Pilasters and above
and
the windows?
Shingles just like the garage that we're talking about. The house is brick, but it's behind those windows, because that's an enclosed porch. The exterior wall of the house is brick, and you can see a bit of that in this photograph way at the end. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Member Katz, did you have anything further?
No, thank you.
Other members of the board have questions at this time? Richard, did you have anything else?
No, I stand for questions. Thank you.
Okay, I will go to public comment. Carl, would you swear in Stephanie Benenato has her hand up?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Stephanie, please state your name and address for the record.
Stephanie Benenato, P.O. Box 1601, Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Under penalty of perjury, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
I guess my comments are similar to Mr. Katz in that I'm wondering why there needs to be an additional wall there, because it does seem that in front of what is now where the door is now and the proposed door, that there is a drop right there that is already has a retaining wall. I'm not sure why you can't put the stairs beginning as far away from the house as possible and step down to those two new proposed doors, as opposed to coming in from the side. And that would eliminate, I believe, the need to block the view of the structure itself, because I do agree that if you're going to put this wall, you're not really going to see the structure. And I think that's a concern if, in fact, this is the primary facade and you want to restore its contributing status. I also wonder if there isn't a possibility on the, where it is filled in with dirt in front of the window, if that couldn't be removed and a retaining wall made further away with steps there going down to what is now the floor level. I don't know, it seems like that's a pretty ephemeral type wall that perhaps you could do that with. And then I do think also white painted wood, if it was a garage look and it had wood and it was on a diagonal, I think that might fit in better. It would be nice on the bottom there that there would be brick to replicate a little bit of the details in the house. I think that those are my comments. I do appreciate that there are the stone walls that are going to be remaining on the other sides, the parts we can't see, and that there is an effort to hopefully find the, that underneath all of that, there are the original shingles and that they will be refurbished if possible or replaced in kind. Thank you.
Thank you. We have no one else from the public that has their hand raised, but Member Larson would like to say something.
Yeah, I would actually say that the siding is very in keeping with the style. I think it's a very sensitive choice for what the structure would have been in the past as a secondary structure. I also would just advise against employing something like a brick, just because, again, we don't really want to mimic the house. We just want to be more sensitive to it and it being, right next to it. So for me, I think the white siding and the shingle is a very, it's a very appropriate choice for this style of house for the period. And I think Daniel is right in that, we're preserving what we know was there, and that's really those elements are captured, and then this further rendering is very much in keeping with that. Thanks.
Thank you, Member Larson. I happen to agree with your comments, so thank you. Richard, let me see, Member Beachside.
Sorry, just a couple of questions for Richard. I'm not clear, does the white siding go all the way to the ground under the new window that's proposed? And do we have an elevation that shows the north elevation with the wall, the proposed new wall in place?
We do not. I did not draw the facade with the wall outside of the wall. I cut through the wall in order to show the elevation of the building itself. So I don't have an elevation, but it would be at the same height. The wall would be at the same height as the wall that I show on the side, which is 3 feet above the grade. So it would be that same height across the door. The white painted wood does go all the way to the ground. I was planning that there would be a flashing that would be between the wood and the ground, so that there was no water issues. But I wasn't planning that there would be any change in the material on the facade.
So just to clarify, is that wall that you are showing, that's the height of the current wall, is that correct?
The height of the current wall is the little stub that I show in the existing north elevation, and I'm raising it up
just at that point.
3 feet.
Okay, and then under the window, that stays the same, that's at grade, is that correct?
That stays exactly the same, yes.
Thank you.
Good. Madam Chair, could I make also one clarification?
Yes, Dan.
I was just watching the mouse moving. So just to clarify the proposed north elevation, the wall will be extending from that point where the patent is to the right, but not to the left of that point.
Right. Mhm.
So that just so that that's clear. So the left portion would be visible. And just one other thing, in terms of the contributing status, the maximum visibility is not one of the requirements for contributing status. So while it is, we do like to see contributing structures, there are the status is not contingent on the building being completely visible. In the past, as we've seen in the historic photo, it was also blocked by a gate, and as a residence, there's a certain logic to having a stairway that provides a certain amount of privacy by making a curve rather than having a linear approach from the street. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Member Katz.
Daniel, I disagree with you. I think that leaving it the way it is ends up blocking so much more of the structure. And I wonder to what extent, Richard, you would be willing, if I'm looking at the very top of that drawing, on the left is how it is now, and on the right is how you're proposing. It's clear that you're going to tear out the wall that is there now, move it slightly down in that picture, and install the stairway there. And I wonder to what extent you would be willing to not have a wall there, have the stairway going from there with the railing that would be attached to the stone wall on the right side there. So you would have a railing and you would have steps going down right towards the building, so it would not block the building so much. And certainly it would not have to have a 3-foot wall that would block even almost all the rest of the building. Is that something that you would consider?
It's something that I would consider, yes. I don't think it would make a very nice lowered area because it would not allow, it would like bisect it, and it would not allow it to be useful. But it's something that I would consider. I don't think that the wall that I'm proposing would block any of the restored items, the restored shingles on the gable, the roof and the trim and the stone walls. I think that would be retained, and the wall would serve to block the doorway and the entrance and all that sort of stuff, and not much more.
Thank you.
Thank you. Board members, you have no further questions, it appears. So I will entertain a motion unless Mr. Martinez wishes to say anything further.
No, thank you.
Member Larson has her hand up.
I'm going to try a motion. In case 2020-002975 HGRB 918 Don Gaspar Avenue, I recommend to approve the application as proposed.
Is there a second to this motion?
And Beachside will second.
Okay,
Can I make a friendly amendment?
please do. Now is the time.
The friendly amendment would be to restore it to its contributing status without specifying a primary facade. And the basis for that is the fact that the original footprint is the same, the distinctive feature of the gable and the painted and the shingle is the same. The 3 stone walls are the same, historic, and that is, I believe, sufficient with the restoration of the shingle portion of the front and a rest of it that will be consistent with the house to entitle it to have its contributing status.
I agree, and I accept the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Larson. Member Beachside?
I just have a question for staff about contributing status. If we're designating this as contributing, is it not a requirement to have a primary facade?
It is, yes, a primary. So a primary facade is the basis for preservation on a contributing building. However, in this case, I think what Member Katz or Vice Chair Katz noted were the architectural details that should be preserved, such as the shingles, the gable, the rock wall around. And we can, that could provide the context for preservation of the architectural features, rather than designating a primary that is new material.
Okay.
And I also would add as a note that only historic material is protected on a primary facade. So you could designate a primary facade knowing that only the historic material is protected.
Yeah, I don't know. This is new to me that I understand the reasoning behind it, but I think that primary facades are all generally or always almost designated. As a matter of fact, when we have a contributing building, we often have a case where you have to designate primary facades.
But isn't that because it wasn't designated? It's been contributing for years without the designation as a primary facade, and then somebody wants to do something to the house so that they need to know which facade is primary and to inform what they were going to do. And we've had these cases for years that.
Right, that seems to be the reasoning behind it, but
The definition of a contributing building does not include a primary facade.
And I'm not aware of an explicit code requirement that there always must be one designated. I know it's certainly been the practice of the board for buildings, but not necessarily all contributing structures.
And the reason for that is that there needs to be some way for people to understand what's required to be preserved and what can be altered.
right.
So I do think that by naming the things that on the building that shall be preserved, that you kind of reach the same end.
Thank you. Okay. I don't see any other hands. So we do have a motion and a second on the floor with amendments. So all those in favor of the motion, may we have a roll call vote?
Yes.
I just want to verify that Member Beachside was okay with that friendly amendment because we kind of
Oh,
proceeded.
yeah,
to
yes, I'm sorry. Yes.
No
thank you.
worries. Thank you for confirming.
Right. And nothing was indicated about the proposed wall, correct?
Let me ask a question, if I might, on that.
Please.
Does it have to be a wall? Could it not be a fence type thing, a wrought iron fence that would provide the protection but not be this large in-your-face wall? I would propose that as another friendly amendment.
I really would want to hear from the applicant. I know we're in the middle of a motion and it's not common for me to ask the applicant to comment on that, but I think it's important enough for us to get a comment from the applicant. Richard.
Yes, it is possible to have a rail or a fence instead of a wall. You just simply have to not allow little children to fall in. So it can be any material that the board would like it to be.
So are you specifying a material, Vice Chair Katz?
Yes, wrought iron fencing.
Okay, so now we have a solid motion.
Well, I don't know whether the maker of the motion and
Is
the
the maker
second
of the motion,
agree to that.
Member Larson, accepting this?
I don't, just because that's not in keeping with the other fence materials that we see on the property, as far as I understand. And I
Okay,
also
thank you.
don't think it's in keeping with the style. So I respectfully reject the amendment.
Okay, so thank you for bringing that up, Member Vice Chair Katz, to see if she accepted it. If she does not, so we have a motion on the floor, and can we have a roll call vote, please, Carl?
Yes, Madam Chair. Flynn Larson,
Yeah.
Frank Katz,
Yes.
Jennifer Beachai,
Yes.
and John Bienvenu.
I am persuaded that the structure as a whole is contributing with this modification without the designation of the primary facade. So I vote yes.
So, I didn't understand your vote.
Yes.
He voted
Okay.
yes.
Thank you. Madam Chair, it is unanimous.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Martinez, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And good luck with the project. And okay, we've spent an entire hour on that one case. We're going to move to the second case on the agenda, which is located at 128 West Berger. This is also Daniel's case, and it's 2021-3109. Would you give us your report, please?
Yes, Madam Chair. (128) West Berger Street. Property with non-contributing status to the Don Gaspar Area Historic District. The shed in the back of the lot was designated also as non-contributing. The lot was part of a lot consolidation. So here, just to refresh your memory, is the location. And here is a lot consolidation diagram. The wall is in this area. It covers the whole width of the lot, so that no access is currently available from the street. The applicant now proposes to create a 14-foot wide opening to allow access to the lot and the apartments located on it. This will include a gate that will be constructed to a height of 4 feet 7 inches, which is the maximum allowable wall height. It will be a sage green steel frame to match the house and the wood infill with cedar stain. The case came before the HDRB on February 23rd, 2021. It was postponed to a date certain of March 9th, today, for the completion of a preliminary zoning review and possible redesign. It was found that the existing wall exceeds the maximum allowable height, which is 4 feet 7 inches, and that it may require demolition of part of the wall to bring it down to the appropriate height. So again, here is the wall and the streetscape on the left and on the right. This is the original proposal showing the gate, which is at the maximum allowable height. This remaining portion of the wall is still above the height, and this was postponed for a redesign. This shows the current wall and the neighboring property, which is owned by the same owner. Note the articulated wall and this wrought iron fencing on top. The applicant returns with a new proposal that lowers the wall to the maximum allowable height where the site triangle applies, which is not at the whole wall, but this section here. So he is proposing to lower this section along the site triangle to retain the remaining height, but to use this circled system of increasing visibility, the wrought iron fencing on both the gate, the lowered wall, and the heightened or the original height wall. So this portion of the wall to the west is replaced with wrought iron fencing, a wrought iron fencing portion on top to match the adjacent property, but does not lower the overall height. The new construction does not meet the code requirement for construction of a wall within the maximum allowable height. I think I don't have any. That's the next case. So staff recommends that the construction exceeds the maximum allowable height for section 14-5.2D9C2C and recommends either requiring that the wall be lowered to the maximum or that the case be postponed for the applicant to apply for an exception for an increased height. That's my report. I stand for questions.
Thank you, Member Katz.
Yes, I'm confused as to what the lot consolidation consolidated. I mean, I think that there were 4 lots there. One,
Yeah,
2,
I think
4, and did it get consolidated to 2 lots?
I am not exactly sure, but I originally this driveway was allowed to serve this lot or this portion of earth. And that is no longer the case. I would
Okay.
ask the applicant to clarify that. In any case, this is now has no access.
Right. Okay, my other question is probably for Sally. We had a case on Alameda where there was a wall that was actually a contributing wall. It was knocked down, perhaps accidentally, perhaps not. And there was a proposal that the board rejected to sort of keep it down. And there was a concern that the original opening for the driveway was very narrow. And so I propose that it be restored to what it was, but make the driveway a couple of feet wider, which would have meant that the wall wasn't getting built back to the appropriate way that it was. And I was told if you do that, then it loses its legal non-conforming status. And so we decided not to do that and ask that it be restored to the way it was. Here, I guess this wall doesn't even have a legal non-conforming status, does it?
There's a lot of questions in there. I don't remember the ultimate reasoning for why the motion to deny the application but allow the slight widening of that Alameda wall. I know the ultimate vote of the board was to require a full restoration of the wall, and I think the primary driving factor in that case was the contributing status of the wall. And I think that the importance of the contributing nature of the historic rock wall and its location and everything, I think was really what drove both the board's decision to require it to be restored and the governing body's decision to affirm on appeal that requirement. So I think in that case, we did have to look at multiple code provisions and decide like what's more restrictive, our requirement that we always have to restore and preserve contributing structures, or some of these other things. In terms of whether this wall is a legal non-conforming structure under sort of the underlying zoning regulations, I'm really not sure. Often we don't have great records, and after kind of a certain amount of time, I think typically we won't try to enforce something that appears perhaps it was raised, without permission a long time ago, but we can't really prove one way or the other, and to go in and try to enforce that many years later. So we kind of assume often that some things are legally non-conforming, and I think the code basically gives that authority to the land use director to ultimately determine whether we're going to call it that or not in a situation where we don't really know for sure the conditions under which something was built. So moving to the last part of your question was whether this is, whether it's legal non-conforming. I think at the last meeting, the board kind of persuasively, in my view, instead of sort of looking at the legal non-conforming structures and rules in the underlying zoning code, is we looked to our own historic code, which is the main rules that this board should be applying. And so I thought that was a good suggestion. And we looked to structures other than buildings not conforming to the architectural style set forth in this section shall be considered non-conforming. No alteration or repair may be made of any such structure other than its removal. So, I mean, I think that's really ultimately at the last hearing what the board wanted to consider applying. And this doesn't make really a distinction between, in my view, legal non-conforming and conforming. It gives the board more discretion in terms of buildings, in terms of how satisfied are you, that they can make these changes without bringing like an entire house up to current regulations in the historic code. But for something like a wall, structures other than buildings, it's pretty straightforward in requiring that if it's not conforming, if you're going to change it, anything beyond routine maintenance and repair, it does need to be taken to the maximum allowable height. I don't know if that answered all of your.
That was my question, whether
Okay.
we wouldn't require them to tear it all down, but we would require them to make it the maximum height.
Correct. That's my understanding. Once they're proposing to make alterations beyond regular maintenance and repair, we would require it to conform to the historic code regulations, in this case, the maximum allowable height.
Okay, thank you.
Or perhaps obtain an exception, obviously, to the maximum allowable height.
So thank you. So Daniel's recommendation is on point, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
I
So
believe
any
it's
other
consistent, yeah.
questions for Daniel at this time? Member Benvenu.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Sally. I think I have a very slightly different interpretation of that provision, which was that buildings, I believe, under the code, and unfortunately I don't have it right in front of me, under our ordinance, if they're non-conforming, they need to be made conforming, where no alterations can be made other than to make them conforming, whereas structures, which we decided the wall is, if they're non-conforming, no alterations can be made other than their removal, I believe is the way it was phrased. I think we could finesse that in a case like this, though, by interpreting that removal section to mean, in essence, to make it conforming by a two-step process. It's removed and then it's altered to be a conforming structure. So rather than taking it all down and then building it back up to the acceptable height, you just take off the unacceptable portion, is the way I would interpret that section in this case.
Yes.
Thank you. Any other questions, board members, at this time? If not, I will get the applicant sworn in. And the applicant, I believe, is Tim Curry. Is that correct?
I apologize for not already having him on the panel. I'll move him over right. No?
No, it is David Smith.
David Smith.
David Smith. My apologies.
Oh,
We've got
okay.
Tim,
Sorry, I'm
but
looking at the wrong case.
Whoa.
Apologies. It is David Smith.
Yeah, I forgot we switched these around. So David's on his way to the panel. Sorry, we didn't bring you sooner, David. You're here now. Tim, I'm going to send you back until we're ready for you, but.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
David, can you hear me? Oh, you're muted. Could you unmute yourself, David? It's still mute.
That was, I think, there you are. Sorry, David.
David, please state your name and address for the record.
David Smith, 132 West Berger Street.
David, under penalty of perjury, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thanks, David.
Good evening, Mr. Smith. You heard the discussion that the board had after the presentation by Daniel.
Yes.
Okay, and do you have comments in reference to that?
Well, after the last week's discussion about what seems to be the necessity of bringing the whole wall down to its the 4'7", I think, legal height, I really kind of jumped into the future of what I would really like in the future. I simply was trying to get an access to the lot for such things as deliveries or gardening or something. We own both properties, plan to keep both properties, but I thought it was a good time to get an opening in the wall. When I found out that any opening in the wall would make the change, then I said, well, I might as well show what I really want to do and see if there's a way to do it or get an exception to do it. Because while I think it goes with the kind of the spirit of the idea that the wall be more transparent and lower, that since it's one property and be treated as one property, that I try and make the new wall look very similar to the other side in terms of the way it's articulated. Because of the visibility cone, I had to bring that whole left side of the wall and the gate down to a visibility of 3 feet, which means that it could still be 4'7", but it'd have to have visibility down to 3 feet. So that led me to make the metal fenestration there, and then one area of metal fenestration to bring it most of the wall down to the visual height of 4.6, and more or less make it look like flanking walls. The drawing makes it look fairly opaque, but if you look at the photograph, you'll see that the lightweight metal fenestration in essence is a visual, makes the wall visually 4'6" high. I realized that there'd be 2 posts in the corner there, which would remain at 6 feet to match the other side, or a little less than 6 feet actually, but close to 6 feet. But I wanted to put this before you, whether it might need an exception or whether you could consider it as is. But this, given the fact that any alteration would require major construction on the wall, then I propose to do it, make it a major remodel of the wall.
Okay, Mr. Smith, did I understand you to say that your submittal, as is shown on what we are seeing right now, that portions of that wall are now at 4 feet 6 inches? Is that correct?
Of the opaque wall. If you look at the photograph of the 2 properties together, which are really one property, practically speaking, you see the wall on the existing duplex where I live, you'll see the wall drops down, the majority of the wall drops down to 4'6", but it has the metal fenestration. That's what I would propose to do on the other side of that driveway, as the drawing shows. So the only part that it would be visually 4'6". Technically, yes, the metal fenestration would be 6 feet high as it is across the driveway.
Oh, okay, that's what I needed to hear. So
Yeah.
that is going to be at 6 feet right now. Okay,
Yes.
okay, let me see what questions board members have for you. Board members, do you have comments or questions at this time for Mr. Smith? Member Beachside.
I think just maybe a question for staff. I don't think we can approve this proposal tonight. Is that correct? Because it requires an exception as is.
That's correct. You could not
Okay,
approve
so
this.
I don't even think it's worth discussing it unless the applicant wants to come back with an exception or reduce the wall, tonight.
I would be glad to come back with an exception, but when I sent this in, I wasn't really apprised that I should have an exception. I'll be glad to come back with an exception. I would also be glad if there's any feeling that anybody on the board would express about the viability of this kind of a design that tries to tie in with the existing and with the existing streetscape.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Member Katz.
Yes, I would propose to continue the case in order that an exception request would be submitted, and I make that would make that motion with the feeling that the exception has merit, and to have the wall on the left side look like the wall on the right side maybe would make things work out just fine. I don't think we should continue it if other people don't feel that we should have that exception.
I'm sorry, Member Beachside, did you have something further?
Yes, I think, it's not part of this case, but the reference to adjoining property wall is also non-compliant with our code, I believe. I think it exceeds the height as is. It looks to be the same height as the wall that we're talking about.
No, I believe that is lower. Is that correct, Mr. Smith?
About the lot slopes 3 or 4 inches across that driveway, and the wall is about 2 inches shorter. So the net result is the wall on the existing duplex there is about 4 inches in flat elevation. It's about 4 inches lower, yet it's stepping down the street because the street is going downhill in that direction. And I realize that wall doesn't conform, but I propose no changes to it. I propose to try to maintain the existing historic streetscape, because that wall is part of historic property and would have to be deemed unhistoric in order probably to change it the way I understand what you're saying is.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments, board members? I'll take it to public comment quickly. Stephanie Benenato, she's already been sworn in.
Yes, good evening, Stephanie Benenato. I don't see why the applicant just can't bring the wall down to the correct height. It is not really a hardship. I don't even see how he could prove a hardship with this. And it is a legally separate lot. The other wall is not conforming. It's too high for the streetscape. And, I mean, if he wants the look to be the same, then the solid wall could be at, say, 3.5 feet, and then have a foot of metal fenestration. And then you would have a similar look, but you would also conform to the right height. Because to compare it to the other wall and not being really clear about actually how tall the other wall is, not how much difference there is between the wall that he is proposing and the existing wall, that's not really what was asked. What was asked was how tall is that wall from the ground up? And we didn't get a clear answer on that. I believe it is about 6 feet. So, I mean, and then if he comes back, he's going to say that he's relying on you to give him the exception because you told him to come back with an exception. And I think the code is very clear that the wall needs to be brought down to the right height. And again, if it's the design element that he wants, he can put that design element in just at a lower height. And so I think you should go forward and either require it to be at 4.7. And if he wants to do the fenestration, come back with a drawing or take it to staff to show what the fenestration would look like. Thank you.
Thank you.
And let me just say, one more thing is that my understanding is that there is a structure way to the back of that lot that is the one to be developed. So there's plenty of space between it and the street. So the lower walls are not going to, inhibit privacy, and certainly lights aren't going to come into it because it's not at a corner So this lower wall is in keeping with the streetscape. And again, I think that you need to conform to, keep with the standards that are clearly there. Thank you.
Nicole?
I was just going to say it's been 2 minutes. So.
Oh, thank you.
Mhm.
Board members, do you have anything further? And by the way, the applicant does have the option to either come back with, if it appears that the board is going to postpone this case, and the applicant can come back with exceptions or to lower the wall. It's the applicant's option. And then the option of the board is to, of course, hear the case and make a decision. Member Benvenue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I don't have a problem with postponing if the applicant wants to seek an exception, but I certainly wouldn't want the applicant to have the impression that the board is planning to approve the exceptions when it comes back before them. And I personally would have grave reservations about the plan and whether the exception requirements have been met, and just want to make certain that the applicant understands that's only one board member's point of view. But I know in the past we have had situations where we've postponed and given certain impressions to applicants as to what would be acceptable. And I would just want it to be clear to the applicant in this case that they're coming back to take their chances with whether or not the board actually will or will not approve those exceptions based on the very stringent requirements set forth in the ordinance.
Thank you. And with that being said, I will entertain a motion at this time. Member Katz.
I would move in this case to postpone for redesign and perhaps the asking for an exception.
Is there a second?
Larson, second.
Member Benvenue, you look a little perplexed. Did you have something to say?
I was just trying to decide if I needed to ask Member Capps for clarification as to what he meant by a redesign that's been made part of the motion.
I understand that we won't know whether any of you wish to grant any exception or whether you would want to grant an exception depending on what the design looks like and how much height he is asking for. So it's, basically I am requesting or moving a postponement in order that he can ask for an exception if he wishes.
Okay.
Member
I do-
Beachhead? Yes, Sally.
I apologize for interrupting, Chair. I don't have a hand to raise. I was just going to note that my understanding based on the board's discussion and staff's recommendation is that the requirement will be for the applicant to propose either a wall that is within the maximum allowable height or obtain an exception, which would require him to demonstrate that all 6 of our exception criteria are met when the board would evaluate that based on a proposed design and the responses to those exception criteria. So I hope that helps further clarify for the applicant's benefit and for the record, but
I think that's the way I see it, and I think that's appropriately stated. Member Beachside, did you have something?
Yeah, no, that's exactly how I see it, Sally. Thank you for stating that so clearly. And I just feel like I hope we've given the applicant enough opportunity to say if he would be willing to lower it and for redesign tonight, or if he prefers coming back with an exception, because I really don't see how the exception criteria can be met for this case where an opportunity is presented and required, without exception to lower that wall. So I hope that we've given him adequate opportunity to speak up now before postponing his case.
Shall I speak up?
Right. Did you have something?
Yes, I can tell you what my intentions are at this point is to just give it some thought, because if in fact, after I look at the exceptions, I agree that it can't be met, then if I am lowering it to 4'6", there might be, I might even change it in some other way that would not be reflected in just saying it's going to be 4'6" solid wall. So yes, I would like some time to consider this and think of some alternatives before I make that decision. So should that be postponed to a future date, or how should that be handled?
Well, we might, first of all, Mr. Smith, thank you for your open-mindedness. And I think that's the appropriate way to look at this, listening to the views of staff and listening to all the board members. And Nicole, do we need to postpone this to a date certain?
It's not the requirement that it's postponed to a date certain, but if Mr. Smith or the board would like to see the redesign for March 23rd, for the March 23rd hearing, then a date certain should be named. And if not, then the next available agenda would be April 13th.
So,
I would prefer the 13th if that's okay.
okay.
So no need to do a date certain.
So we do not need to do a date certain, okay, because then you have to have the requirements of publication, et cetera, et cetera. So we have a motion on the floor in a second. And Carl, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Jermaine. Frank Katz,
Yes.
Jennifer Beechide,
Yes.
John Bienvenu,
Yes.
Lynn Larson.
Yes.
It is unanimous, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Mr. Smith. Next case is Angela's case, and it is located at 555 San Antonio Street. This is 2021, and it is 3048. This is a request for primary facades, and may we hear your report, Angela?
I just want to confirm, is Tim Curry the appropriate applicant on this round? And I think I might have seen Barbara Wagner. Should we bring her to the panel as well? I believe she's the owner.
Right.
I'll bring her over as well if she wants to speak. She'll be ready.
Okay, thank you, Sally.
Sure.
Ms. Angela, may we hear your report, please?
Yes. I don't know if you can see my screen. I probably need to.
We cannot see your screen. Do you need Nicole's assistance there?
No, thank you. I just need to get my
Okay.
machines and applications and everything working. My screen won't enlarge, so I can't share.
I can share
Share
either the
that.
packet or the PowerPoint, what's your preference?
Why don't you share the packet since everybody has that?
Okay, give me one moment.
Thank you. Shall I read in the meantime?
Would you please?
Yes. 555 San Antonio is a Pueblo Revival style 3,176 square foot residence located in the downtown and east side historic district. It is believed to be constructed before 1932. The property has undergone multiple additions and alterations. According to a 1991 HDRB case, the house was remodeled in 1945, 1965, in 1975. A portal was added to the west elevation in 1975. In 1991, the square footage was approximately 2,100 square feet. Sometime after this, a 900 square foot addition was constructed. Another large addition was added also after 1991. The house reads as two houses conjoined, the original house and the addition on its south facade. The existing yard wall has replaced a lower yard wall with a different configuration. The applicant is before the board for designation of primary facade as applicable. Staff recommends designating the north elevation a primary facade per 14-5.2C, regulation of significant and contributing structures in the historic districts in the downtown and east side historic districts. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Would you tell us why you are suggesting that the north elevation be the primary facade?
Yes, the north elevation retains most of the original configuration and materials in the form of the large divided light windows.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Nicole.
I want to note too that this facade diagram replaces what was in the packet. So you'll notice that it is different. And it's intended to clearly indicate that this north elevation stopping at the carport is what Angela is suggesting. And we do have some photographs of that elevation that Mr. Curry provided if you'd like to see those.
Okay, so Angela is suggesting that the north elevation has a carport?
No, that this one is excluded. This is where the carport is, but this being one side of the facade that's being recommended and this the other.
Okay.
All of this area here.
And the large windows that she was referring to are on what side of the, what elevation?
They are on the north, and let me show you these photos. And I can, let me share them. Okay, so here's the carport. And this is one window here, and I believe that this is one of the original windows, but and then this is the large window that she was speaking of.
So on the bottom facade, right where the wall starts, that is what Angela is indicating would be the primary facade?
Yes, so
excluding the carport.
correct. This corner here going across the north side and then ending here at the carport. And it's the most open and publicly visible, not considering the yard wall in the front. But the front has part new construction and part historic.
Yeah. Is the rest of the house surrounded by wall?
It is. Here, let me show you on this, just this diagram here. Okay, so there's a front yard wall that goes around here, and I'm coming off screen, but it goes below here. This is the 1975 portal. This part of the house is part of the historic footprint, as is this. And then coming around, this is also part of the historic footprint, I believe, over to here, although Mr. Curry will have to remind me of it because it's been several months since we were out there. Then there's the carport. There's a gate that comes into this existing courtyard, and there's a casita and a small little hallway, another gate, and then a covered portal, and then a more open portal all along here. A path walks all the way around to the front of the house. Now, this portion of the house, actually, I believe it's from kind of like around here to this area, is all addition from the 1990s. Oops, sorry. And then the wall for the property on the backside is here. And then there's a side yard wall here. Oh, and then the front yard wall all around the front. And so this is a little bit of yard wall here too. And this is all the open visible area that I was showing you in the photos along Chavez.
Thank you. Vice Chair Katz?
Yes, I'm curious about facade number 1. I know that there is the portal that was added in 75, but are the windows and door on that facade original?
They are.
Is there some reason why that should not also be primary? The original house, I mean, the portal does not really cover up the original window and door.
I don't disagree with you, and the board can absolutely pick up facade number 1 as well as 2 if they think that that's appropriate.
Thank you very much.
Member Beachside?
Just to add to Frank's comment, I did notice that I believe the applicant also suggested that the north and the west facades be made primary in the application.
Yes, I believe that when we visited the property in November, that we were all in agreement that these areas kind of retain the most historic material, and maybe a little bit over here too, just on this one corner, not over here.
Okay, thank you. Can we swear in the applicant? It appears we don't have any more questions for either Nicole or Angela from board members. So can we swear in Mr. Curry and also the owner of the property if she is wanting to speak?
Yes, ma'am. Tim and Barbara, do you swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And Barbara is muted.
Okay, is Ms. Wagner, Mrs. Wagner, did you want, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay,
Do you swear also?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
okay, just before you speak, Mr. Curry or Ms. Wagner, I think member Benvenu has his hand up.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm sorry I didn't get my hand up sooner. I just had a quick question for staff. Nicole, you mentioned that facade number 1, which other than the portals certainly is historical, could be designated, but wouldn't that also include facade number 9? And I don't know what that looks like, but that looks like that's one of the original portions of the house.
Member Bienvenue, I am uncertain that this has any particular character in recalling visiting. This addition that was made in the 90s, I don't believe that there was any retention of character here, but Mr. Curry could maybe speak to that a little more clearly.
Do any of the photographs show what facade number 9 looks like?
Let me see here. Photos.
Yeah.
Oops.
There are photos in the next case, which is the same property, that have more close-ups of
Okay,
the
so
client showing the addition and the connection. But there are no
here's
photos.
here's the portal elevation, and this is all historic, and so are the fireplaces. This is where you have the addition and the newer items, and then let's see if we have anything that shows
Where is
that.
number 9, Nicole?
Yeah, I'm looking. I don't know if we have a picture of this because it's kind of in this cove. Let me look in the other case.
The other case should have a little bit better depiction of the entry.
Get me at least an elevation, if not. Let me see here. I don't see any photos in this.
The board packet.
Mhm. So Mr. Curry may have some to share.
Yeah, maybe with our discussion with Mr. Curry and Ms. Wagner, that can be clarified.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Curry?
Good
Tim.
evening, Madam Chair and members of the board. So the west facade, upon further discussions with the staff, we really determined that the portal that was added in 1975 diminished the historical value of that in terms of it being designated as a primary facade. And also, if you will look at the western streetscape that's viewed from San Antonio, you'll see that that is really not publicly visible. So for those two reasons, we made a determination that really the most visible facade, so there's the west elevation, and this is a winter shot, and there really is almost no visibility of this portion of the house. In addition, because the portal that was added is less than 50 years old, that was our basis for the determining factor that that this elevation would not necessarily be designated as contributing.
Where is that photo from?
That's leaning over the gate that is on the northwest corner of the property.
Quite visible.
Yeah, and
It
that's,
is.
Tim, that's the porch you're talking about?
That is, yeah, that porch was added in 1975. And, one of the issues is that because that portal was added, there's an indication that that is where the front door to the property is. And when the hearing was heard in 1991 for the addition to the southern portion of the facade, they allowed this western portal, to be facing that street, and then as a result, where the actual front door is not under the portal. So when the addition was put on in 91, there's not a portal over on that section. And so there's a visual clue there that this is where the entrance is, when that's in fact not the case.
Yeah, but Tim, would you agree that the features that are under that portal are character defining features to this home?
Well, I think they could be designated as character defining, but again, I don't feel that since they're not publicly visible, I don't feel that they, are contributing to the streetscape.
Okay, and did you have anything further to add?
Not at this time.
Okay, member Katz?
Well, I'm puzzled. We're looking at a photo from outside the property and it's completely visible. I don't understand why he says it's not publicly visible. I understand that there are some portions along San Antonio that it's not visible, but here it is visible.
Well, that's because, I was leaning up on tiptoes to take a picture with the camera raised over my, over shoulder height in order to take that photograph. From the street, that is not really visible. And I think there are other photographs that will demonstrate that for you.
Yeah, I'm trying to get to this is the one. So this is the gate that the photo is being taken over.
Yeah.
And then this is the wall, and this is all along Chavez.
I got you. Thank you. That helps. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Okay, any other questions at this time for Mr. Curry or Ms. Wagner, board members? I don't see any hands up. So I will go to public comment. Anyone from the public wishing to comment? I see Stephanie Beninato.
Yes, good evening. I think I would agree with the board members who think that 1 and 2 should be designated as primary. First of all, I think last time this was discussed, it says 1970s, but not clear about which part of is it 1970 or was it 1975? But in either event, that is part of the original house. It has its original features that are character defining. You often accept non-historic materials from primary facades, which you could easily do here. And as we know, gates do get open, so it's visible, walls do fall down. And you just had a discussion about how a primary facade did not have to be visible. So again, I would recommend that the board go with 1 and 2, not just 2. Thank you.
Thank you. No one else from the public has their hand up, so I will go back to the board. Board members, Member Katz.
Yes, in this case, I would move that the facades number 1 and 2 be designated as primary. And I would accept from that any materials in that designation that are not historic at the time that is relevant.
Are you indicating the porch to be specific or not?
Well, the porch isn't historic now, but you know, by the time a couple of years rolled by, it's going to be historic.
Okay. Is there a second to this motion?
Beachhead, I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call vote, please, Carl.
Yes. Jennifer Beachhead,
Yes.
John Bienvenu,
Yes.
Flynn Larson,
Yes.
Frank Katz.
Yes.
It is unanimous. Unanimous. Mr.
Thank
Chair.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. So then we go to the next case, which is under new business, and it's at the same location. And Angela, may we hear your report, please?
Yes, Nicole, do you have the second PDF or packet? You all have this packet material, and I can't project from my screen on Zoom, my PowerPoint.
Okay, Nicole, can you get that up for us?
Yes, give me just one moment. Let me get to the beginning of this. Okay.
Thank you. 555 San Antonio is a Pueblo Revival style 3,176 square foot residence in the downtown and east side historic district. It is believed to be constructed before 1932. The building is surrounded by a stucco yard wall varying between 5 feet 6 inches and 7 feet 6 inches in height. The building has undergone alterations in 1945, 65, and 75. The portal was added in 1975. The square footage increased 2,100 square feet, and sometime after that, 900 square feet, and another addition after that. The house reads as 2 houses conjoined, the original house and the addition on its south facade. The existing yard wall replaced a lower yard wall with a different configuration. The applicant proposes the following changes: to add an 80 square feet portal to the west elevation at the entry front doors. The portal is intended for protection from the elements. Add a 60 square feet room on the east elevation. Remove the existing wooden gate, vehicle gate, on the north elevation and replace with stucco wall to match existing. Existing landscape pavers will be removed and revegetated. Remove a window in the carport and cover with plaster to match the existing. Add 3 skylights. All skylights will be low profile with bronze anodized cladding and will be concealed behind parapets and not publicly visible. The exterior stucco will be cementitious El Rey La Luz to match existing. Roofing will be tan colored bry. New windows and doors will be fabricated with divided lights in a clad color of sage green from Sierra Pacific windows. Stain will be natural linseed oil.
May we see the proposed elevations?
Yes.
Staff recommends approval of the proposal as the application complies with section 14-5.2D, general design standards for all H districts, and 14-5.2E2, downtown and east side design standards. My report
Thank you.
included.
Board members, do you have questions for either Nicole or Angela? Not at this time, it looks like. Member Beachside.
I do have a question. It appears that the addition is less than 10 feet from a primary facade. Is that right?
That would be correct now that this is designated as a primary. Yes, then looking at the footprint for the house, the portal would go here.
Does that mean we need to postpone for an exception?
There is the option to postpone for an exception and not make a decision on anything, or there's the option to approve the addition that's requested that's not on the primary and all of the other elements of the application, but they would need to come back for an exception for us to notice an exception for this front portal.
So I would think that we could go forward with all the other proposals. Yes, Mr. Curry.
Madam Chair, I don't believe that we could meet the criteria for an exception in order to add the portal on the west elevation. So we would just request that we proceed with the other portions of the additions and such that we were requesting.
Yes, that's what I just indicated. So, and by the way, Mr. Curry, I do want to thank you that you did the existing, with the wall and without the wall, which I think is appropriate for us in evaluating the project. So I thank you for doing that. And did you have anything further to say?
Not at this time, Madam Chair.
Board members, do you have questions for Mr. Curry? Yes, Vice Chair Katz. Frank, you have the floor.
I was wondering about the view from the east side and showing what that's going to look like. And I don't understand quite. Okay, that's on the bottom there.
Yes.
Yeah, this is with the wall.
And the
then
wall
this
would block almost all of it.
Mm-hmm. Like to
Okay,
here.
thank you. That's what I wanted to see. Appreciate it.
Mhm.
Okay, any other questions? I have something to add that back in 1991, I read the minutes of 1991 and I was on the board. And I noticed something, I think this was the case, that was very interesting, that they appointed a subcommittee, which is no longer allowed. And I was part of that subcommittee. And so back then they would have board members not only serve on the board, but then be part of a subcommittee to try to help the applicant in their presentation before coming to the board again. And also board members would represent the board on appeals. Just a couple of notes that I felt are interesting, that are totally different from what is occurring right now. So board members, if you don't have any further questions.
Let's just approve this baby. Let's just get it done.
I will entertain a motion. Mr. Curry, you do have your hand up. Did you have something further? Tim. Did you have something further to say?
No, I don't have anything else to add at
Okay,
this time,
you have
Madam
your
Chair.
hand up, so,
Let me take
okay.
that down.
Oh, okay.
And I just want to kind of confirm my understanding that the applicant did agree on the record to go ahead and withdraw the proposed portal addition on the west elevation at this time, rather than trying to seek an exception. So I just wanted to clarify. I think that's the current status of the proposed application. Feel free to let me know if I got that wrong, but.
Kim,
That's
is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
Okay, thank you. Member Beachside, did you have your hand up?
Sure. I'll make a motion in case number 2021-003197 HDRB at 555 San Antonio Street. I move to approve the application as submitted with the exception of item 1, which the applicant has withdrawn at this time for the new portal in the west elevation. And just to indicate that the applicant may return with an exception for that change if he so desires.
Madam Chair, one thing. Did we do public comment?
Yes, we did.
You know, I don't actually think we did, Madam Chair.
We didn't?
I don't think we did on this one. That was the previous case on the same property.
Okay, maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
I'm taking notes and I have none.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
I'll withdraw the motion so that we can entertain public comment.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Sorry about that. Stephanie Bedonato.
Thank you. I was going to say.
Yeah,
there
I was confused in that. I want to hear from Stephanie.
Okay. I just want to say that I really appreciate Mr. Curry's withdrawal of the for the portal where he would need an exception, realizing that he could not meet the criteria, because I do think people would come in and try to make up stuff, take up board time when they know that it really can't be met. And so I really appreciate it. And I do think that everything else should be approved as submitted. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Stephanie. Okay, we will go back to entertaining a motion. Member Beachside.
I'll make a motion in case number 2020-3197 HDRB at 555 San Antonio Street. I move to approve the application as submitted with the exception of item 1, which the applicant has withdrawn for the new portal in the west elevation.
Yes, is there a second? And by the way, the case number is really 2021.
I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay. Is there a second to the motion?
A second.
Larson seconds. Oh, sorry.
Okay, Larson seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Frank Katz. Am I muted?
No, we can hear you.
Yes.
Okay. Jennifer Beachside,
Yes.
John Bienvenu,
Yes.
Lynn Larson.
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Mr. Curry and Ms. Wagner. Next case is located at, let me see, 1660 and a half D Cerro Gordo. This is case 2021-3198. This is Angela's case. Angela, you have the floor.
And I just want to make sure that we have our applicant. Okay, I've got Bill Roth, and I'm going to go ahead and bring Mike Lofton to, who I believe is the property owner.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Unfortunately, Zoom isn't allowing me to share my screen. So
can Nicole help us again?
The packet, please.
Give me just one moment and let me find it. 1660.
$16.60 and a half D is a 3,500 square foot Spanish Pueblo revival style single-story residence built in the 1990s and located in the downtown and the East Side Historic District. The building has a historic status of non-contributing, The house is located off Cerro Gordo Road to the south and through a winding driveway tucked into the back of the lot that runs along the river. None of the building is publicly visible. The applicant proposes to add a 272 square foot writing studio on the southwest corner of the house. The addition will match the house's style with a shed roof, portal with a standing seam style profile, dark brown in color. The construction will be frame and stucco. The roof is flat with parapets. The stucco will be cementitious cell raised buckskin to match existing house. Windows will be clad dark brown color sim to match existing windows. The south exterior door will be from the same manufacturer with the same cladding and finish. The north door will match the south door. Staff recommends approval of the proposed project and finds that the application complies with section 14-5.2D, general design standards for all H districts, and 14-5.2E2, the downtown and east side district standards. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Angela. Board members, any questions for Angela at this time? I don't see any hands, so we'll go over to the applicant or applicants. And Carl, if you could swear them in.
Let's see, are both of you going to speak?
Mike?
If you need us to.
Okay, I'll swear you both in then, Mike and Bill. Under penalty of perjury, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good evening. You both heard Angela's report. Do you have anything further to add?
As the agent, no, I don't personally, unless there's any questions that come up.
Okay, thank you. Can we see the elevations? Okay.
This is the existing west, and then this is the west elevation with the studio addition here.
Okay. Thank you. Board members, any questions in reference to the elevations? It appears not. This is so far going smoothly. I will ask for public comment. And I have Stephanie Beninato.
Stephanie Beninato. I just had one question, because when you look at the on the plat, it looks like it's right there at the lot line for track 2. And I just was curious about that, if track 2 is developable or not. And, you know, were there any plans to split that? Because it would seem like it's really close to what would be the lot line. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. I don't think that's within our purview, but
That's correct. That would be a zoning question, and there is a PZR indicating that the zoning requirements were preliminarily met.
thank you. I'll go back to the board. Board members, you didn't have questions or comments in reference to this particular application. I will entertain a motion then. Vice Chair Katz. Member Katz, you have the floor. Unmute.
I'm sorry. In this case, I would move to approve the application as submitted.
Is there a second to the
Larson,
motion?
second.
Was that Member Larson?
Yes, Larson seconds.
Okay, thank you. Roll call vote, Carl, please.
Jennifer Beachide,
Yes.
John Bienvenu,
Yes.
Flynn Larson,
Yes.
Frank Katz.
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion is passed.
Thank you very much. And gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
time.
Appreciate it.
The last case this evening is located at 1299 Upper Canyon Road. And it is case 2021 3185. This is Daniel's case. Daniel, may we hear your report, please?
And by process of elimination, I'm guessing that Surroundings Studio is
Yes.
one and the same as Sandra Donner.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Daniel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. 1299 Canyon Road is a single-family residential structure constructed in a Spanish Pueblo Revival style in 1973 with non-contributing historic status to the downtown and east side historic district. Here's the location. This is Upper Canyon Road. This is the lot in question. We're going to be looking at just the periphery of the lot along the street. And this is the view for those who know coming up Canyon Road, this coyote fence along the side as you're going up towards up the canyon and looking the other way towards the city. This driveway with the coyote fence going around the side and down. So the applicant proposes the following items. Number one, removal of the existing coyote fence along the east and south side of the property. That's this fence. Item two, partial removal of the stucco yard wall along Canyon Road. I think I have a photo of that also. Sorry to scroll through. It's this wall here. I can do a Google share, map share if you want to see more of the details of the road. Item three will return. Shall I just read the items and then we can return?
Yeah, just go right ahead and finish.
Item three, construction of a new stucco yard wall to the maximum allowable height of 5 feet 8 inches at the western edge of the property along Canyon Road. So the idea is that this coyote fence will come away and will be replaced with a wall. At the end, it goes up here. There will be a garage located here. Item four, construction of a stucco yard wall to replace the coyote fence at the eastern edge of the property at Canyon Road and running north along the shared drive. Item five, a new oxidized steel pedestrian gate to a height of 5 feet at a new parking area on the western edge along Canyon Road. So if you look at this little diagram, or I can go back, sorry, to scale up and down, make you dizzy. This is the whole property. So here is a wall, and then it becomes coyote fence here, and the coyote fence extends down here. And the coyote fence will all be taken down and will become a wall. At this area, which I'll now flip back again, will become a slightly enlarged parking area. Sorry to flip once again because I didn't organize the slides quite right. This is the existing situation. There's a small parking place. This line here, this L shape is this L shape, this low retaining wall and the wall going here. So there's a small parking and then a gate here and then a curved wall, which you can see represented in this curve. And what you can see is that this L shape will be extended. The parking area will be made bigger. The curve will become a more flowing single curve with a gate and an oxidized steel out of oxidized steel. Then item six, a new flagstone step configuration inside the property in the western edge along Canyon Road and reconfigured moss rock walls. That's the steps. Item seven, a new low rock moss rock planter wall at the eastern edge of the property at Canyon Road and running north along the shared drive. Item 8, the garage. So I'm sorry, just flip again. Here looking from the inside of the property, this is the position of the viewer looking in this direction. You see a gate, pedestrian gate, and then a garage. And then this is the wall that lines Canyon Road, and this is here Canyon Road. Viewed from the side, so to speak, in the direction of Canyon Road, you would see these doors where there's now a coyote fence. And here looking along Canyon Road, this raised structure here is the garage. Sorry, I'll just go back one more. This is the view looking west down Canyon Road towards the city. This area here where there's now a coyote fence will become essentially the back of the garage with no doors, but flush with the wall. So it'll look like from the outside a raised wall, but it will in fact be this garage. It will be constructed to a height of 14 feet. The maximum allowable height is 16 feet 8 inches. It includes a trash enclosure, and the garage door will match the oxidized steel gates. Headers above the doors will match the light natural wood color of the existing headers of the existing carport in the house. Item 9 is a new vehicular gate along the eastern shared driveway. That's here. And then finally, item 10 is to stucco the entire house, yard walls, and carport and garage with El Rey twig. And here at the end, sorry to go through, here's the twig color, the header, the other colors. Here's the oxidized steel that's proposed for the pedestrian gates and the automobile gate. Those are the items. Staff recommends approval of the proposed project and finds that the application complies with sections 14-5.2D and E.
Thank you, Daniel. Daniel, the portion of the wall that will be the garage is at 14 feet. What is the length of that?
You're referring to essentially the length of the garage.
Exactly.
I'm just trying to see if I can locate it on the.
I can always ask the applicant.
The applicant will surely know, but the garage is 21 feet wide on the not along this side, so pointed away from Canyon Road. It's about 20 feet on each side.
So you're saying for 20 feet, that wall is going to go up to 14 feet?
Yes, it's the rear portion of the garage.
Okay, thank you. I see that other board members have questions. Member Katz.
Yes. Can you go to the looking at that scene from the other direction, from the corner? So you.
From there.
Now that one. It wouldn't be 14 feet there because it would be quite a bit lower.
Yeah,
But
this
that it's still
that's 9 feet
at
0
the corner.
inches.
Yeah. I'm still concerned that this is high. I mean, there's no reason if you dropped it like 2 feet, it would be no different than what you're looking at now, rather than a rather large and imposing wall. And I was wondering if there isn't some reason why it can't be dropped lower.
We'd probably have to dig it into you'd have to construct the building below the natural grade.
Well, that they're doing that. That's the plan. And I'm wondering why it has to be a 14-foot high thing that would be so visible along Canyon Road there. The second question I have is, you see at the right edge of your red square is a lovely tree. And where is the garage going? What's happening to that tree? We've not given any clue in any of the materials. And I believe that tree is probably large enough to be protected. My other question is
Maybe that it's being, it looks like on the diagram, it's a proposed site plan. Let me see if I have that.
well, we can just
Here, it's
ask.
very small. You'd have to refer to your packet, but I believe that that is the tree. We should ask the applicant. It looks like perhaps that tree is being preserved. It's very small on this diagram. You'd find the larger one in your packet.
Now, can we go back to the
Here.
other end of the property in the photos?
Here, this tree.
Yeah, if that's the tree, that would be great. Yeah. Can we see the photos of the west end of the property? Okay, what's happening with the telephone pole?
To my knowledge, there's nothing happening.
It's in the middle of their parking area. I suspect something should happen to it.
It was not addressed in the application.
What's happening to the drainage problem to where that wall curves in? There's a large puddle that forms there every time it rains.
I do not know, sir.
Okay, we'll ask the applicant.
I think you can ask the applicant those questions.
Thank you.
Member Benvenue.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. I just had a question for Daniel about the gates and the treatment of the garage door, or I suppose the large entry gate. They're replacing, at least at the Coyote fence on Canyon Road, a very simple wooden gate that probably has no real historical significance, but it's very kind of traditional and typical of that area, with something that I personally think is out of harmony with that particular part of town, this oxidized steel detailing that's been trendy for a few years, but I don't think harmonizes. On the other hand, I'm not sure what in our ordinance addresses materials for gates, whether they're just small entryway gates as we have on Canyon Road, or the entry into the vehicle gate entering the property. Can you help me out with what parts of our ordinance address that issue?
Well, we're in the downtown and east side, so they're basically the general design standards, and then the downtown and east side design standards, and there are also wall standards. Perhaps I would have to go through and read them in more detail to determine what they say.
Okay, I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but I was just wondering when you review an application like this that has a treatment for gates, and in this case made out of oxidized steel, what's the thought process on whether or not they conform, whether that material and design conforms to our ordinance?
Yeah, we would be looking at the aforementioned standards.
All right. I haven't seen anything particularly addressing that, but I think that perhaps it's implied within the general overarching provisions of the intent to have harmony with existing historical structures on the east side. But if there's something more specific, I'd appreciate knowing. But I personally, as I say, don't find that treatment to be harmonious. Thanks.
Thank you. Daniel, the proposed vehicular gate, is that solid or is that see-through?
There was, let's see, something in that. I think you should ask the applicant for a more precise description.
Okay, thank you. I thought you might know offhand, but thank you. Jennifer, member Beach.
Just following on what member Bienvenu was discussing, I was looking at the wall and fence guidelines, and I'm not able to tell how long this proposed new wall is, but there are requirements to, modulate the height every 25 feet and to change the plane every 50. And I believe the vehicular gate, I can't tell if that's set back or not, but that's a recommendation of the guidelines as well. Do you know, Daniel, or should we ask the applicant?
About the length of the walls.
Yeah.
I don't know offhand. I mean, there do seem to be these are existing walls here, but this is a proposed new wall. It may be that
Right.
well, this is the garage here. This is 20 feet, so 50 feet is about to here. I haven't done the exact calculation as to whether that portion of the guideline has been met.
And would you, as part of the guidelines, how would you interpret the incorporation of the garage as part of the wall, or is that just considered a separate building and not subject to the wall length?
That's a good question. I think I don't have a good answer. Sorry.
I don't either.
He is able to shed light on it. I mean, it visually, it looks like part of the wall structure.
Yeah, that's what I was sort of getting at. It does look like part of the wall, and obviously the height isn't restricted by the wall height, but it does read as part of the wall from the street.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just as a note, it does meet the setback requirements for a structure. So, it's essentially, it is a structure that adjoins a wall with the appropriate setbacks. I think formally speaking, that's the way that it meets the zoning requirement in that way.
Okay, thank you. Would you swear in the applicant or applicants, Carl?
Sandra Donner?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good.
I'm sorry, who is this?
It's Sandra Donner.
Okay, under penalty of perjury, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, good evening, Sandra. There's lots of questions that are being asked here by board members, and I think that you heard them. I don't know if they want to re-ask them.
I've been trying to take notes along the way. It is really quite difficult in this format, as I'm sure you all are quite aware, to kind of keep tabs on everything. Let's see. Well, I can start with, well, first of all, let me start with the utility pole and the drainage problems, because these are both things beyond my client's control. The P&M utility pole, we have been in the process of trying to get a hold and get a meeting with P&M for about 5 months now. We actually received a notice that it had been assigned to an engineer yesterday. We are looking at the possibility of actually relocating the pole to the west. So yes, the clients are dealing with that, but in the speed of P&M, which I'm sure many of you have dealt with, that would hold up this entire project for potentially, an excessive amount of time. The current parking space that exists at the west side of this property is actually very dangerous. It is right at a curve in the road. There's almost zero visibility. The existing Coyote fence, which has been there for God knows how long, also that and the combination with the silver lace that's there really creates a big obstruction and with visibility. So it's the desire of the client to actually make not only an attractive parking space, but one that's much safer for people to get in and out of. They've had friends over with some close calls in the last couple of years. The other thing is the puddle was mentioned, and the puddle has actually been brought to the attention of the city attorney's office. The drainage problem is actually, it's actually a city issue. The water drains down Militar, and the actual The drainage condition in the middle of Canyon Road is inappropriate and poorly sloped. And has actually damaged this house in the past. And I actually have photo documentation from Friday where there was an excessive amount of water and infiltration into the wall, and then as well as water that's actually leaching into their property from the street. So that's actually a legal issue that has to do with the city and has nothing to do with my clients. And something that they've actually broached with the city. Okay, moving on to, so the actual height, and Vice Chair Katz did mention that, that the actual height of the garage is only 9 feet above grade along Canyon Road because the property itself is 6 feet below Canyon Road. The desire of having a 14-foot tall garage really only leaves you with a parapet and structure. We're probably down to 11.6 to 12 feet on the interior with finishes. We could possibly reduce it. However, it does meet zoning requirements, and it also meets, it is actually 2'8" below the requirements of the historic board. So I'm willing to listen to your suggestions, but I do feel that I'm meeting all of the requirements by the historic board and zoning of the city of Santa Fe. Let's see. The gate, the vehicular gate is solid. The clients, right now, the entire property is solid. The house itself is barely visible. I actually did all of the remodeling and additions of this property in 2013 for the previous owner. Yes, the gates are all solid. Let's see, the other question about the gate was the oxidization of the steel gate. Steel gates that are weathered in the historic district are actually quite common. In fact, the sample that was given in my packet is from the intersection of Camino Pequeño and Camino Pequeño and I believe it's Palace right there. Sorry, I've been working since 5:30 a.m. so I'm a little tired to say the least. So that's actually from the historic district, from a nearby property, the coloration. And let's see. Oh, and the other thing too, just to mention about the height of the garage and the height of the wall. And so in this elevation here, so the southeast elevation, this is actually it's a very common occurrence actually along Canyon Road. As you continue eastward, there are multiple properties where the intersection of the yard walls and actual building walls are extremely common and in fact are considerably taller. The walls themselves, the new wall is less than 50 feet, and then the garage wall, I believe Daniel was saying, was 21 feet. And, oh, the tree. Yes, we would like to save the tree. It may not be possible. I know that that is an issue that will have to go to the city. My firm is actually a landscape architecture firm, although I am an architect. So our goal is to try and save the tree. The problem with this property is that the property is completely covered with mature trees, deciduous and evergreen. So no matter where we put the garage, we will disturb a tree. So our goal is to save that one. That is the only one in that corner that is actually over 6-inch caliper. So the only one that will have to be approved by the city in order, if we have to take it down. Our goal is to preserve it. But there's no other place that we can put the garage without disturbing a tree of that caliper. So, and I think I got everything, but please let me know if I didn't.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Donner. I think you covered it pretty well. If not, board members will ask you additional questions.
Sure.
Or anything that you might have missed. Member Larson.
I just have one question for the applicant, and that's just whether you're amendable to the material for the gate. I personally just find that material to be kind of harsh in this particular district, and I just wanted to know if you had considered any other design options. Thanks.
My clients are pretty set on that. That was the direction that I was given. I also feel that with a gate of that size, making it out of anything other than steel just doesn't really make that much sense. And in terms of just durability, I mean, would there be, I mean, if the board suggests, another type of treatment for steel, like maybe a bronze paint or something like that. I personally, when putting things in the landscape and in the environment, having something that's weathered and that actually changes through time, rather than being something that's a stayed material that never mutates, I think is a much more pleasant material. The other thing that I would want to point out, and this is not exactly pertinent to your question, but the moss rock walls, the low walls around the property that occur along the kind of driveway easement and then on that southeastern corner of Canyon Road will be fully planted. I did not put that in this application because the landscape planting is not pertinent to historic approval. But that will actually soften the walls in the corner with the garage and also create the perception of an indention on the vehicular gate, because the stone walls actually push out into the driveway. And right now it's just a straight wall.
Did you have anything further, Member Larson?
Yeah, I suppose I just would like to see some of the other gates that may be in the area, maybe on a street view would be helpful. I don't know. I'm not comfortable with that kind of material just in this area, I don't think.
I can provide Google Street View if you'd like.
Yes, please. Member Beachside.
Thank you. I just wanted to go back to the wall and fence guidelines, and I just want to be sure I'm understanding the facades of the wall that are visible along Canyon Road are the south, or what's labeled south, east and west and east. Is that correct, Ms. Donner?
I'm sorry, I'm not quite understanding.
I'm just wondering, from Canyon Road, which facade of the wall do we see from Canyon?
From Canyon Road, we're seeing, I don't know, since we're looking at, we're seeing both. It's the south wall.
And so the east, is the east sort of down a driveway? Is that right?
The east is down a it's like I don't know exactly what it is. It's not a road. It may be an easement. But it's right where, what's it called? Gentle Nudge was once upon a time.
Okay. Got it.
There's like two big kind of dirt driveways that go down with a big coyote fence between them.
So the new proposed steel gate is actually around the corner from.
It's
Canyon
not
Road.
on the street. Yeah. That is correct.
Okay. And then on the street, so the south elevation, is there any modulation or plane change in height or otherwise in that new section of the wall, which is
in the new section of the wall there isn't. It actually matches the height of the wall where the stucco wall stops, and then it goes up at the garage. I certainly would be amenable to bumping that up and doing a little bit of a step. There are steps along the other parts of the wall actually, Nicole, if you could just go west a little bit. Sorry, you're like the driving navigator.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm just trying to like not make people motion sick.
I know. Yeah, I know. It's tricky. It's super tricky. And this is like, it's such a long, like, it's kind of, it's a weird property to see even on street view because of it just bends slightly. But you'll see, well, we're going to do the pilasters at the gate again. And this curve, just so everyone knows, there was a tree once upon a time that's dead. So that's what that curve was from. And then as you go down the road, you'll see there's a little bit of a step. There's a little bit of a step that happens right there. And, you know, I would be willing to either step it up or step it down, dependent on the height requirements. I believe, if I remember correctly, that the height of the wall at that step is actually 64 inches. So we could easily step up another 4 inches at that point, which would be comparable to the existing step in the wall. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Sure.
Member Katz. Unmute, please.
Sorry. Looking at that view, maybe rotating towards the house. A little bit more. Yeah, I guess I'm trying to keep going more, if you would. Yeah, the problem with the drainage is that at one point, when work was done on the house, along the side of the road, off the pavement, it was dug down so the water ran to the west, past the parking area that exists, past the telephone pole, right into the arroyo there. And then that got all filled in with dirt. And that would be one way that would help you deal with the drainage problem there. It could be handled sort of on the property. I know, because that big puddle that forms there, everyone drives by and splashes the wall. And of course, that's good for the wall.
And it doesn't actually just splash. It doesn't just splash the wall from cars. I mean, I've been involved with this property since 2012. And so yes, the cars go by and splash it, but actually, and the water rushes down Militar and actually hits the wall.
It's not Militar there.
It is.
It's 1300 Canyon Road. It's not Militar. That's where I live. That's the street I come down. I come to that. Yeah.
That's okay.
But you know, that it is a problem. And I think
that road right there.
Yeah, I think that you're right that the problem is that they have the drains in the middle of the street.
Right, and there's no slope there.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, the road's improperly sloped at that point, which is unfortunate because it's, you know, the water rushes down through there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's been like that. Yeah. You live there. I mean, like I said, I've been involved with this property for a long time. It's a huge drainage problem, which has been there for years. And yeah, I know the last owners, it got better, but and these guys are, you know, hoping to keep making it better. But the city does need to reslope it at some point.
As far as the gates are concerned, the steel, there are none going the direction you're looking. The only steel gate is the mayor's, which is right opposite where the garage is going. And it's a see-through gate. It's not panels, it's just a steel frame. Couldn't you do Coyote fence on the steel frame?
Why
Why couldn't you do it?
Well, aesthetically, I don't think it goes with the design of the property at all. And I'm not sure that it actually is, you know, I don't believe that I'm doing anything that actually goes against, you know, kind of the historic desires of, you know, of the area. I would actually, I mean, I would not want to do a coyote fence on it. I think it would be actually relatively unattractive. They do not want to do an open gate. They do have dogs. They are concerned with privacy, which I think is their right. I would be willing to talk to them about, you know, doing something. Yeah, I'm a little confused because there are, you know, a considerable amount of gates in, you know, in the historic. I mean, I've lived here for 17 years now, and you know, there's a lot of steel gates in the historic downtown and east side. And I'm not sure why, you know, I'm hitting a wall with this. I mean, this is you know, we're looking to take a property that's really quite lovely. It is not contributing. It's not even, you know, from 1973. And, you know, we're not trying to put anything like ultra modern or anything in here. We're just trying to, you know, clean it up, build with, you know, materials that will last a considerable period of time, and that will look harmonious in terms of coloration with the property and with the area.
Yeah,
So,
I think the pushback you're hearing is, yes, there may be steel gates in other parts, but what our brief is to ensure that what's being constructed is harmonious with the streetscape. In other words, this particular part. That steel is not harmonious with this streetscape, either up or down. And so that's why you're hearing the concern.
okay, well then, you know, I would push back a little bit on that and say that the vehicular gate really isn't part of the streetscape. You know, maybe the pedestrian gate is, but I feel like the vehicular gate is really, you know, it's off on another, it's kind of, you know, off into that other space right now.
That was going to be my question, if I might interrupt. Donner, where exactly, how far away from Canyon Road will that proposed gate be?
Hang on just a second. Let me see if I can, I was having some VPN problems, but let me see if I can check that really quickly.
You go a little further east, you'll see the gate.
So it'll be down this driveway, correct?
Yes, and it is,
Yeah.
it is 45 feet off the property line. The beginning of it is 45 feet off the property line.
Yeah, you see the gate there.
Yes.
Very visible from Canyon Road.
Well, we were really high up though too. That Google camera is about 12 feet up in the air.
It's still visible from Canyon Road.
Okay, let me see what other questions board members have. If not, I'll take it to the public. I don't see any other hands up. Anyone from the public wishing to comment? Stephanie Beninato.
Yes, good evening. Stephanie Beninato. I agree with the members who are saying that the steel gate is not compatible with the streetscape. I do believe that coyote fencing, since there's so much around, would be compatible. Coyote fencing on a steel frame can last quite a long time. We'll keep dogs in, and I don't know how small the dogs are, but even an open steel gate or uprights should keep most dogs in, or you can put some wire on the back side of it. I don't think the tree is going to last because I think it's going to be too close to the foundation of the garage. And I really don't understand this thing about it meets the setbacks, because if it met the setback, visually what I would see is a lower wall that might be really thick, and then you would see the building. But the building is actually right at the street line. So maybe Daniel can explain that a little bit more, because on the drawing, it does look like there's a really thick wall at that corner, and that might be actually 5 feet or whatever it's supposed to be there. but I don't get it. And if there was a wall, a yard wall, and then the garage, I think that would visually make the garage less dominant, because it really is, excuse me, but in my view, pretty ugly. It's just too massive, and it's just right there on the street. And I do appreciate the idea of the step ups or step downs on that length of wall, because it is quite long. And the gate at Pequeño is really at Alameda, comes into Alameda, East Alameda. And that's quite a distance from here. And as we can see, there really are no steel gates, solid steel gates in this area. Thank you.
Thank you. We have John Eddy that needs to be sworn in.
Do you want me to respond to the question about the lot line?
Yes, would you please, Daniel? Hold on, Mr. Eddy.
If I can just share the screen briefly. The lot line is this light line here, and the structure is set back 7 feet from the actual lot line. So the wall here is quite close to the lot line, and then it slopes back to 7 or 8 feet away from the actual lot line.
What's the setback limit or requirement?
7.
7.
Okay, anything further, Daniel?
No, that was it. Thank you.
Okay. Carl, would you swear in John Eddy, please?
I will. Hi, John. Under penalty of perjury, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, Carl. Thank you.
And do you still live at 227?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thanks.
It's 227 something? Huh. Okay.
227 East Palace Avenue, Suite D, Santa Fe. Thank you,
Okay,
Carl.
Mr. Eddy.
Thank you. I wanted to ask a question to clarify something that I thought I heard. I want to make sure I heard it correctly. Is the interior ceiling height of the garage, what is the ceiling height of the garage?
I think I heard 12 feet. Ms. Donner, could you tell us the interior?
Yeah, I think it probably will ultimately be about 11.6.
Okay. I just measured my own garage, which I think is very generous for a garage ceiling, and it's about 9 feet. I don't understand the need for garage height going all the way approximating 11 and 12 feet. It makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. And that is obviously driving the mass that I think everybody is, the massing that everybody is objecting to on this project. I see the removal of all this Coyote fencing, basically. I'm sorry, can you hang on that please for a second? The removal of all this Coyote fencing and replacing with very oppressive massing in this section of the streetscape is basically erasure of the vernacular on Upper Canyon Road, coupled with the steel gate, which I think is completely inappropriate as well. A steel gate can easily be, you can add latias to it vertically and bring latias back into the equation here so that you have a little bit of a wooden element. Upper Canyon Road has always had wooden elements throughout. So I don't approve with seeing all that being erased and replaced with simple oppressive massing. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Donna, would you, Mr. Eddy did bring up a good point about a garage, the interior ceiling height to be 9.
I'm certainly, I'm sorry about that, Madam Chair, but go ahead and finish.
No, go ahead. You know what I'm getting at. 9
Yeah.
feet interior ceiling height. So how would that change the wall height?
No, I would certainly, that I'm certainly willing to lower that. I think that, the thing is, ceiling heights, I mean, generally I think garage ceiling heights are too low. there's also, my clients want to be able to have a decent amount of storage because it is ultimately, it's a very small garage. It's very narrow. And one side is mostly storage. But I'm certainly amenable to coming down, a foot to 18 inches on that, which would bring us down to a 7.5 foot height along. And I believe the maximum allowable height is 68.5 inches. Is that correct, Daniel? Well, I think I'm right. I'm right in that area. The other thing that I did want to add, though, so first of all, the existing Coyote fence actually is over 8 feet tall in multiple locations along it. And actually, when I was going through preliminary zoning review, I was told that my clients were going to be cited for excessive height. And I was like, that wall's been there as long as I've been alive. So there's all sorts of kind of contradictory things in terms of, I understand, the desire for the vernacular. I can also guarantee that that wall will not be just a wall sitting on the street. The intention is to plant there's 5 feet between the moss rock planter wall that sits at the property line and the actual garage. So that whole area will be planted. So it won't be like some of the other structures where the walls are right on the property line with no gap between the street and the new structure. So our intention is to soften that whole edge actually with plantings as well. But I'm certainly amenable to lowering that height.
So Ms. Donner, you're going to have plantings on the outside of that wall? Is that what
Yes.
you're indicating?
Yes.
And-
If Daniel can actually open up the plan
Yeah,
again.
and if you can indicate to us exactly where you're going to have those and
Yep. Absolutely. Thank you, Daniel. You can see, and actually, I think it's the green areas. Those are all planting areas. So that whole corner is going to be softened by plantings. And down there. So actually, and that will also, that'll also create that indention with the gate and soften the view of the gate from Canyon Road.
okay, and the little pedestrian gate, you were also wanting to have that as oxidized steel, correct?
The desire of the owner was to have the vehicular gate, the pedestrian gate, and the gates to the trash enclosure next to the garage all be steel. Yes.
Okay, let me see if the member Katz.
Oh, you just went away from what I wanted to refer to. Can you go back
sorry.
to? Yeah.
Okay.
I'm uncertain. There's a garage, and then is that a storage portion to the? No.
That's a trash enclosure. The other side, kind of that weird trapezoidal shape, is actually storage.
So if you didn't have that, you wouldn't lose the tree, would you?
That's still
Yeah.
questionable.
And there's lots of places for storage on that property. And this is what, their third house?
I honestly, I understand what you're saying, but I think that that's irrelevant.
Thank you.
Board members, any other questions? If not, I will entertain a motion at this time. Member Katz.
Yes, on this case at 1299 Canyon Road, I would move to approve the application with a couple of conditions. One condition is that the steel gate on the west side from the parking area there not be a wooden gate, and that the vehicular gate on the east side be not steel. I would suggest a coyote fence there, at least in some memory of what was there. And the second condition would be that the garage be lowered by 2 feet.
Okay. And that will make it what? She had indicated that she could bring it down to 7.5 feet.
I would want it lower than 2 feet than it as submitted. This would
So
mean
you'd want it
it's
7
12
feet.
high, and it would be like 7 foot high at the corner.
Okay, so 7 feet.
Okay.
Mr. Katz, sorry, could you repeat the condition for the vehicular gate?
That it not be the steel, but a coyote fence type of coyote gate.
And he also
As it is
indicated,
now.
and Member Katz, you also indicated that the pedestrian gate be, that's also oxidized steel proposed.
Right, that it be a wooden gate. I mean, I think there's a
That
wooden
it be a wooden
now.
gate. Okay. Okay, I think we've got this down pat. Member Benvenue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was going to ask for clarification on the pedestrian gate on Canyon Road, but you just obtained that. So I would second the motion.
Anything further, any other amendments to add to this motion, members? Member Beachside.
Thank you. I'd like to suggest as a friendly amendment that as an additional condition that the wall along Canyon Road, the south wall, the height be modulated at the architect's discretion, but at least every 25 feet in the new section of the wall.
Yes, that's good.
You accept that?
Yes.
Okay. I think we're ready to vote. Carl, roll call vote, please.
Thank you. Frank Katz,
Yes.
Jennifer Beachside,
Yes.
John Bienvenu,
Yes.
Flynn Larson.
Yes.
It is unanimous, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Ms. Donner, and you better go get some sleep.
Thank you all so much. Have a good night.
Okay. And I did want to say in reference to this case that when you have a coyote fence, it really it's a different impact that it has than a wall. I think the walls make a greater impact than coyote fences, in my view. Do we have anything under discussion items, staff or board members?
What happened to 300 Garcia Street?
300 Garcia Street is postponed to March the 23rd. Correct?
Yes,
Yes.
Water Street.
That was
We've-
postponed as
we've-
well.
given that
And Water Street is also for the 23rd.
yes, and Water Street.
That's also postponed.
Mhm. Yes, so both of those will be heard in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
So it appears there's nothing to discuss and anything from board members. Sally, I'm wondering how close we're getting to doing field trips.
I believe that we're up for another review tomorrow on our color, which will impact our ability to have larger gatherings of humans and vehicles. We can make it to green and then hopefully turquoise in a couple more weeks. So, so that's good. I know that the land use director, Eli Isaacson, is interested in trying to facilitate that. So I think as soon as we sort of have a sense of what we can do within the limits of the public health order, I'll have to review it. I'll make sure.
Yeah, thank you. No pressure, just wanting to know where we were at. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, those need to be noticed, of course, and we need to allow interested public to tag along. You all may end up in different vehicles. So just sort of trying to figure out, the logistics. And then once we have a proposal of what might be allowed, of course, we'll let you all make a decision as to how you want to proceed in terms of reinstating it within the, the limits that we have. So,
okay. And to your knowledge, do we have any appeals pending?
we have some appeals pending. We have an appeal at 542 Camino del Monte Sol from owner Laura Chalk. With regard to the denial of a new pedestrian gate with arched stucco feature over the top. I anticipate that appeal will be heard by the governing body on April, I'm going to say 14th. We have a pending appeal in 1303 Camino Corrales. That's the proposed library structure from the Water Gardens Trust. And that was denied on the basis of they wanted a height allowance and a height exception, and argued that their additional height for the Torreon feature was a rooftop appurtenance. So those arguments are going to governing body, I believe, on April 28th. We have an appeal and an address that I don't remember. Brian and Lisa Watson, I want to say 203 Old Santa Fe Trail, I think. Proposed addition on a significant structure that was appealed by Stephanie Benenato. Appeal was denied by the governing body on procedural grounds that's pending in district court. I believe we still got some Gail Gilbert appeals kind of completing their journey through district court and settlement and permitting, but those are very close to being wrapped up. I think that's it for this group at the moment.
Okay, thank you, Sally. Sally, did I read that you are not representing the board on cases on appeal? Was that incorrect?
Well, here's how our office views it. This is a quasi-judicial body, and you are ruling on cases like a court would rule on cases. And when cases are appealed to a higher level, the lower court's not a party to the appeal. So I've never construed the board as a party to an appeal to the governing body. That's a higher zoning authority within the same structure of quasi-judicial bodies. So, I mean, for example, if somebody has a DUI case in magistrate court and it gets, maybe they're found guilty, they can then appeal to the district court and they get a new trial and a new decision from the district court. The magistrate court is not a party on appeal. And that's been my understanding of the framework, that as a quasi-judicial body, you're really not a party to an appeal of your decisions, which are quasi-judicial orders. So that's how I've understood it. I represent the board in terms of providing advice and recommendations as you make your decisions and assisting you in crafting orders that I think are, defensible and reflect your decisions, and explaining your reasoning to the very best of my ability to those further up the chain who have to consider the issues. So in that sense, I do, try to represent your interests and your perspective and your decisions in that manner, but not as a party to an appeal. I don't know if that makes sense, but
for clarifying that. And
sure.
Anything else, board members?
Yes, I have a question about a wall being built on Camino del Monte Sol. It looks, it never came before us, and it looks more than 4 feet high, and I was just wondering about that.
Do you know what the address is?
No, it's a little bit up from.
It's probably in the 400 block of Canyon Road. Did you guys approve that? Staff?
I don't know. We'd have to look it up by address and see. And then there's some things that were approved that are out of my memory because they happened before November. So we'd have to look up an address and see. I can send Gary
I'll get
out.
you the address.
Okay.
Anything else?
Mm-hmm.
If not, we are adjourned, and good evening, everyone, and see you in a couple of weeks per usual. Take care of yourselves, get shots. If you believe in them.
Good Good night, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Good night.
Bye-bye. Good night.